I would tell any client of mine, including my own children, look, if you're thinking about going on meds, commit to getting 30 minutes cardio at least 3 days a week, heart rate 130 or better, for 3 weeks before you would go see a psychiatrist for meds. Try that first. And the science is very clear. 30 minutes cardio is going to have a much greater effect with greater side effects. They're going to be positive instead of negative than any med on the market is going to have.
Welcome to the Mountain Tough Podcast, brought to you by Sig Sauer. Welcome to the Mountain Tough Podcast. I am Dustin Diefenderfer, CEO of Mountain Tough, and we are so glad that you are here. We love seeing you come back week after week to the show. It is our goal every single week to bring you inspiring guests that help you with your mental toughness, fighting against mental weakness, so that you have more tools in your mindset toolbox to overcome adversity so you can live that abundant life, that always ready life. If you are a new listener, we are so glad that you are here on today's show. If you're a loyal listener, we would love it if you could take a second and leave us a ranking and a review on the podcast store of your choice. Those rankings and reviews mean the world to me. I love seeing your feedback. We are huge believers in iron sharpens iron. So anything we can do to be better and add more value to your life, we love seeing those come through. And the rankings and reviews, they do allow with the algorithm for these shows to get out and help more people and change more lives. The Mountain Tough Lab has been rocking and rolling. We are through Tough Fest. Tough Fest was such an amazing, epic event. If you missed it this year, definitely look at marking your calendar in the middle of next June. Tough Fest is one of those days that can change the trajectory of the next 10 or 15 years of your life. Getting around a like-minded community and seeing Mountain Toughers gather from around the world, it is a life-changing, epic, magical day. There's no better way to put it than if you're looking for a jumpstart, if you're looking for a life change, if you're going through a rough time, or if you just want to be around a bunch of like-minded individuals, Tough Fest is your opportunity. And that is always in the middle of June here at our headquarters. Check that out. If you miss 24, do not miss 25. Also, as a podcast listener, all Mountain Tough podcast listeners do get the opportunity to try the Mountain Tough Plus app for 6 weeks for free. So as a listener of any episode or today's episode, you can try Mountain Tough. It's 6 weeks for free. All you need to do is use the code MOUNTAINPOD. That's all caps, all one word, MTNPOD. Mountain Pod will get you 6 weeks on the Mountain Tough app, so you can check out all of our physical programming. You can do several weeks of workouts. You can check our mindset programming, our physical, spiritual, nutritional, and all our bonus content. So the subscription unlocks everything we offer. And with Mountain Pod, you can try that. It'll give you 30 days plus your 14-day free trial for 6 weeks free. All you need to do is click Start Free Trial at mountaintough.com and enter the code MOUNTAINPOD. Transitioning over to today's guest. Today's guest is a show I've been waiting for a long time. His book, got it right here, Relentless Solution Focus. It did change my mindset. It did change the paradigm on how I thought about problems and solutions. It's probably one of the most helpful tools I've ever found for staying positive, getting out of ruts, making sure that we're not getting beat down mentally. Relentless Solution Focus, he calls it RSF, changes the game in how you navigate mental issues, whether that is problems at home, problems with your kids, a fight with your wife, problems at work, on the mountain. Anytime we are hit with some negativity with an issue, If we stew on that negativity, it's going to get worse. If we think about solutions immediately, within 60 seconds, it is going to get better. Dr. Jason Selk is the creator of Relentless Solution Focus. It changed my life. He's on the show today. And I want to make sure you guys take notes on these tools, take notes on these tactics for your mindset. It is a game changer. It's helped a lot of individuals here around Mountain Tough, including some really close friends and family. So stand by for my conversation with Dr. Jason Selk. Well, let's dive in. Let's explain, Jason, in this first part of today's show, what you're doing now, what your work is all about, what your work has been all about for decades.
Well, I'm just so wildly passionate about helping people. And I got really lucky, I think, early on. When you're passionate about something, I think it's really easy to get noticed. And I'm not doing this for the money, although I do charge people, and I'm not the cheapest coach you're going to hire. But what really gets me is just, if you want to get better, if you want to improve, I know a lot of things about how this brain works. And for most people, it works against us, but with some small adjustments, we can really turn the tables and start to control success instead of it being kind of in control, you know?
Yep.
So I was really lucky early on that I got into the sports world, and I went from a nobody really to one of the top guys in the world really within a couple of years. And because of that, I was able to get book deals and get a platform where I really have been sold out from the time I started in business within a year or so. So it's just been really rewarding for me to be able to work with people that want to get better. And, you know, again, I don't care if it's you're wanting to throw the fastball more accurately, if you're trying to be a better plumber, if you're trying to shoot and win the gold in the Olympics, if you're trying to be more mountain tough, it makes no difference to me, as long as it's something that you being great is going to make the world a better place. I'm all in. So what I've done really from the beginning of my career is I'm a grinder. I mean, I'm working all day long. You know, I've been on the phone. You might hear my voice a little bit cracked at this point. You're my last thing of the day. And that's why I put you as the last part of the day, because I just totally prioritize my clients all day. And I've been screaming and hollering since 8:30, 9 o'clock this morning. And when I get off the phone with you, I'll start getting myself ready to do it again tomorrow.
Love it.
Yeah, but it's a lot of what I do is not tell me how you feel. I mean, I'm a mental health professional. I got a mental health license, and I know a lot of people in my field, it's more reactive. Tell me how you feel. Let's see if we can do something with that in a positive direction. But for me, I can do that, and that's fine. But I really want to teach you the things that I know about mental training. Like I said, if we can just train the brain in certain ways, performance becomes a whole lot easier. So does health and happiness. And that to me is just the end all be all of why I'm on this planet. Really is what gives me purpose in life, to help people get to their potential and serve the world in a better place.
I love it. And how come our brain, by its standard nowadays, it defaults to working against us? Why is that happening?
I think the biggest thing is, and I talk about this all the time, it's called PCT. If people are taking notes, this is one you want to know about. This is a really, really important factor of how the brain works against us. It's called PCT, problem-centric thinking. And it's unfortunately biologically built into all of us. And the reason is, hundreds of years ago, when the world wasn't such a safe place comparatively. I mean, I know people, you know, we just had this global pandemic and there's all kinds of crazies running around out there. But if you look at our world today, as opposed to hundreds of years ago, this is definitely the safest, healthiest, easiest time to be a human being. But PCT is the biological tendency to focus on the negative. Hundreds of years ago, it's what was necessary for the advancement of the species. If I lost sight of all the negatives out there, for example, I'm building a shelter. My wife and I are building a shelter, and we've got 2 young children, and we're trying to just set up a shelter for our family. And there's a river behind us, and the wilderness is in front of us, and we know that there's a bear out there, 40, 50 yards away, and there's a river behind us, and our kids they're good swimmers. We taught them early, but that river's got undercurrents that they may not be aware of. So I'm building the shelter. My wife's trying to find materials to help me build the shelter. And all the while, we have to be sensitive to those threats. My children drowning, that bear getting all of us. And so not only are we built to biologically be aware of the threat, but then we've got this thing in our brain, it's called the caudate. It loops so that even if I get distracted from the bear, my brain is built to go back to it. So I'm building the shelter, and I got to focus on hammering. And as I'm focusing on this, my brain has this biological tendency to say, yeah, but where's the bear and where are the children? And I'm hammering, where's the bear and where's the children? And so hundreds of years ago, it was better than the alternative. It kept us alive longer. But now we don't really have to worry about those imminent threats on such a regular basis, but our brains have not evolved. Our brains still have that PCT. And the issue now is, although hundreds of years ago, PCT was essential for the advancement of the species, now it's so detrimental for performance, for health, and for happiness. And the rationale, it's all biological. Every time I think about the bear or the undertow, my brain kicks out a neurotransmitter called cortisol into the bloodstream. Cortisol is the biological initiative of stress, anxiety, fear, anger, depression, guilt. They call them the nasty 6. And those negative emotions are really useful. They're the trigger, they're the alarm that's supposed to say to you, hey, something's wrong. You got to shift your thinking. But most people just aren't being trained on this piece here. What most people do is they just have the biological direction of focus on a problem and then continue to focus on the problem. And then we have this cultural myth. It's so crazy. People have been taught that if we talk about our problems, it's going to naturally lead us to solutions. Is actually something that people believe is healthy. But the truth of the matter is there's no empirical evidence. If you do search for the truth, empirical is just a fancy word for proven in real life. There's no empirical evidence anywhere that says talking about your problems leads you to a discussion on solutions. In fact, it's just the opposite. It's expectancy theory. Whatever we focus on, we expand. So it's actually a shift in thinking. And again, I think a lot of us have given ourselves permission to think about our problems. That's kind of the normal piece, but then just talk about the problem over and over. Keep talking about the problem. And like I said, culturally, we've been taught that that's okay, that that's actually kind of a good thing to vent and just talk about your problems. And maybe it allows us to make deeper connections with people. That's the only value that I can really see from it. But the issue is we have to learn to retrain that process. It's not a continue to talk about and think about your problems thing. It's if you're thinking about your problems, you're going to start to feel a negative emotion. And when that negative emotion, you start to feel it, that's that cortisol going into the bloodstream. And that cortisol is going to kill us. Just so you know, people with this PCT, they're going to die 14 years earlier than people with this new training of RSF. That's science. Now, this is not opinion. You're not going to hear anything. If we were at a bar having a beer, I might give you Selk's opinion, but you're not having me on this show for my opinion. I'm going to give you only science. 14 years is a long, long time.
That's insane.
More lives, that cortisol will take more lives than any global pandemic's ever going to take, hopefully. What we just went through was bad, but nothing compared to this PCT issue or this cortisol issue. Anyway, what we want to learn is it's okay to think about your problems. Might even be okay to voice the problems, but then quickly, and as we talked about a little bit already, within 60 seconds, because it gets you out in front of the cortisol, start thinking, okay, so what can we do about the problem? What can I do about the problem? What can be done with this problem? What's one thing I can do to make this a little bit better? And I would just tell you, in terms of social interaction, people get a whole lot more energy from RSF, from having that relentless solution focus, as opposed to PCT. People who believe that venting actually is a way to positively connect with other people, I would challenge your thinking. Try this and see what brings more energy to the room. A person talking about the problems, or it's okay to have problems. We all got problems. I'm going to have my problems, but when I talk to you about my problems, I'm going to say, hey, and this is what I'm going to try to do to make it better. Or I might even come to you and say, what do you think? What's one thing you think I could do to make it better? But anything to shift away from that PCT, that's where you have that significant and measurable improvement of performance, health, and happiness.
Man, that is insane, especially the fact that we are killing ourselves with this cortisol. And that cortisol drip makes sense to me after reading your book. It made sense because you do kind of feel nasty. You kind of feel in that funk once that cortisol does start releasing. But I never once thought about it being a low dose poison in my body. But is that what's actually causing some of the cancers and is causing a decrease in longevity? Is because you go for decades, maybe 20 years with this slow dose, this slow drip of poison in your body every day?
How about 30, 40 years? There's a quote. I love this quote. Most people die at a very early age only to be buried 30 or 40 years later. But yes, and I guess I try to visualize it this way, just so that I'm more action oriented. It's like imagine you got so much money, you got billions and billions of dollars in the health industry right now on pills and vitamins and minerals and things that you can take to improve longevity. I've got my computer up on a book called Outlive by Peter Attia, and he talks about this very stuff very scientifically. And there's no doubt about it. The mental aspect is one of his big solutions. We got to get away from the cortisol drip. But I think about it like this, personally, I actually don't personally take a lot of supplements. I don't really take anything other than just like a one a day. But I know a lot of people do, and maybe I even should. I know Peter Attia is kind of convincing me that maybe I should be rethinking that. But when you wake up in the morning, you think about, okay, you take those pills, you take the things that are supposed to make you healthy. And that's great. That's smart, especially if they're proven. And then throughout the day, you can choose. You got on the other side of the table, you got these vials, and they're full of cortisol. And you can choose to pick that vial up, and you can inject it right in your arm. And that's that cortisol drip. You can choose to do that, or you choose to not pick that vial up. And most people just don't even understand. And I'll tell you the other thing, and I worry a little bit. I might need to hire some protection at some point because I'm talking more and more about this. We have a culture. 8% biologically of our population should be taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. We're now approaching 30%. That's a 22% differential. 22% of our population is taking a med that they shouldn't be taking, that they don't need to be taking. Now, there's a lot of money being made in that 22%. That's the part that works me a little bit. You see some of these movies and people getting offed for a whole lot less money than. But anyway, my point is that there doesn't seem to be this real heavy motive to teach people about PCT and RSF and cortisol. I'm just not seeing a whole lot of that programming. Now, I do think in the United States, especially, we've had a much greater understanding and embracing of mental health issues. And I think that's wonderful. But I do think the services being provided are still way off where they need to be. We're still a culture where if you're experiencing stress, anxiety, fear, anger, depression, guilt, you're for the most part thinking you need to pop a pill. And with my own children, we've all gone through adolescence. All of my children went through stages where we had to do some work to make sure we controlled the emotions, but we did the work and we didn't have to take any of the meds. Now, again, 8% of the population absolutely needs those meds, and I know they're extremely effective. I want to be very, very clear. I'm not in any way challenging that 8%. I'm suggesting to the 22% differential, there could very well be a different alternative, something that's better. I'm going to say one more thing about those meds. The concept of side effect, and I learned this in graduate school, but most people don't even understand this still today. There is no actual side effect. Side effect is a marketing term. When you take the med, every effect is an effect. Yeah. So those side effects that people are experiencing with the meds, they're every bit a part of that med. And you got to be cautious of what you're putting into your body, effect or side effect. And again, if you don't need it, there might be a better alternative. I'm going to say one more real quick thing that's an easy, without even having to go to work mentally on things. The number one healthiest thing any human being can do, period, mentally, physically, and emotionally. There is no close second. Peter Attia just confirmed this, and a guy by the name of John Medina confirmed it in a really exhaustive literary analysis of health. He summarized it in a book called Brain Rules about, 10, 12 years ago. But it was the same information. And I've seen it hundreds of times in different places. But those two books did a really good job of bringing it to the forefront. 30 minutes cardio, the single healthiest thing any human being can do. I would tell any client of mine, including my own children, people that I love, my mother, my father, my wife, look, if you're thinking about going on meds, commit to getting 30 minutes cardio at least 3 days a week, heart rate 130 or better for 3 weeks before you would go see a psychiatrist for meds. Try that first. And the science is very clear. 30 minutes cardio is going to have a much greater effect with greater side effects. They're going to be positive instead of negative.
For sure.
That any med on the market is going to have. 30 minutes cardio, heart rate 130, at least 3 times a week.
Hey guys, I just wanted to take a second and talk to you about nutrition and supplementation. There are a plethora of options when it comes to supplements that can be kind of overwhelming, so I wanted to let you guys know what I do take. So in the mornings, I am taking the Mountain Ops greens and the collagen right when I wake up, and that has been a game changer. I don't eat a lot of vegetables throughout the day, so adding those greens in the morning is quick and efficient. And I can really feel the collagen. In addition, I do enhance my workouts. My Mountain Tough training sessions are quite difficult, and so I do like to take the Enduro. It gives you a cardio enhancement that you can actually feel. And then I also like a little caffeine with my workout, so I'm taking the Mountain Ops Ignite. Lastly, it's really important that you are getting enough protein and recovering after these difficult sessions. What I do know is even following a strict whole foods diet, I'm not getting nearly enough protein on most days unless I take a supplement. So I do take the Mountain Ops protein after my workout to make sure that I'm hitting about 1 gram per body weight for a functional athlete. So taking the Mountain Ops protein with some creatine after my workouts has been huge. Those are the products I am taking and that I recommend. The Mountain Ops team is giving Mountain Tough podcast show listeners an exclusive discount to their products. It is a great deal. So for a first-time purchase on mountainops.com, you do get 20% off. All you need to do is go to mountainops.com and then use the code MountainTough at checkout. That's MTNTOUGH. All caps, all one word. Apply that as your promo code at checkout, and you're going to get 20% off your first order. You've been listening to the Mountain Tough podcast. Man, and you can feel it and you can see it when you engage in that physical practice, and you feel it right away. I think what struck my mind as you were sharing those statistics that is really bothersome to me, which we talk a lot about on this show, is there's probably another large chunk of human beings that are still struggling deeply with anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, complacency, passivity, that are in that rut, they're in that funk, but they don't want to or don't think about pursuing the medications. And so if we look at Americans, it's probably like 5 out of 10 men potentially that are actually struggling with these things that just haven't made that leap yet to go down the medication route. So not only is it just the 8% that is really struggling and needs the medication, but I think there's a huge chunk of individuals that are struggling deeply, but getting a medication for that depression is something that they don't want to do or they don't think about doing. And so they're just going to sit in that struggle for a long period of time.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest issue is people just don't know what to do. You
Mm-hmm.
know that there's been this light turned on of it's okay to have mental issues, and it is okay. I mean, it's human. So it's nice that we're kind of giving ourselves permission to be human, but in the same breath, there ought to be and here are your options of what to do. Let's start with let's get on an exercise program. Okay, if you do that for 3 weeks and you're not seeing any progress, then maybe what we want to do is consult a physician. Okay, and then after you talk to the physician, maybe what we want to do is find a therapist or find a book like RSF or I think there are some books out there that do give a person a bit of this is exactly what to do to get control of your thoughts. Now, I think I've done a really good job. Even when I was in the sports world, I was talking to a client of mine yesterday. I'm writing a new book, and it's a guy who used to pitch for the Colorado Rockies. And I said, hey, I'd love to put you in the book. Let's just kind of talk about what the work we did, the impact it had. And, I can't wait for his story to come out because it's going to be really impactful for people. He was a guy that wasn't all that talented, but he ended
Mm-hmm.
up kind of hitting the holy grail in Major League Baseball in 13 years. 10 years is considered the holy grail. Very few people in Major League Baseball make it 10 years, and he made it 13. And he was a guy that really shouldn't have been there. And he had real inconsistency his first 3 or 4 years. He got sent up and down, and it looked like he was kind of on his way out. And then I was with the Cardinals at the time, and a player from the Cardinals reached out to him. They were best friends and said, hey, you should read this book. But he just said it so clearly. He said, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'd heard that I should be doing things and thinking certain ways, but I didn't know how to actually put it all together and think the right way when the pressure was on. And there are resources out there that can teach people specifically and clearly how to do that. And I would just suggest to all people, and like I said, if it's my family, if it was me, I would try these things before I go to meds. And if I tried these things and I'm really not feeling any relief or any significant relief to the point where I'm looking, then I'm going to get the meds. But
Yeah.
the biggest problem is, well, I think there's two problems. One, people just don't even know that you can learn to control the thoughts. And the second piece is we're becoming a very complacent, non-work ethic oriented culture. And that is quite disturbing.
You got
You
to
got
put in the
work.
work.
This is not going to happen without work.
And does cortisol have an addictive component to it?
Now that's a question I've not actually heard before. I'd really kind of need to think it through. I really don't know that it has an addictive nature to it, but I would tell you this. It doesn't grow in its propensity, meaning the more you do it, it doesn't get stronger. But the inverse is true. So the inverse of cortisol is serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine. Those are kind of your four positive neurotransmitters. Those are neurotransmitters the brain kicks out that cause the positive emotions: pride, happiness, satisfaction, really the good stuff, and positive energy. Okay, so if you think about exercise, that 30 minutes, heart rate 130, is a therapeutic release of serotonin, of the positive neurotransmitters. But the more you exercise, the more your brain is able to produce the serotonin with exercise. So to me, that's kind of the positive addiction side of it. And if we can just, I have this friend, his name is Barney. He and I have been friends since college, and he's one of the NFL top grass guys. He does the field. So like Super Bowls and the games in Mexico City and Germany, Barney's always on the field doing the grass. And anyway, he's at my house. This is about 5 or 6 years ago. And I said, Barn, I want to get rid of the weeds in my yard. And he said, Jay, you want to get rid of the weeds in your yard? I said, yeah, Barn, I want to get rid of the weeds in my yard. He looked at me and he said, grow more grass.
Yeah. That's huge.
That really stood out to me, and that's the part where you got to do a little work. If you're not feeling mentally right, that's your brain and your body saying, hey, self, something's off. You got to change something. And that's where you kind of get up, how do you grow more grass? Start working out. Get the 30 minutes cardio at least 3 days a week. If you can't do that, work towards it. How do you grow more grass? Learn how to do a mental workout. Read the book RSF.
Yeah.
Start doing product and process goals. Start doing something positive first thing in the morning so that you're pushing the good neurotransmitters in, because it's almost impossible to have serotonin and cortisol being pushed at the same time. So I'm going to grab that vial of the good neurotransmitters, because if I can start pushing that in, it stops me from pushing the negative stuff in.
Yeah, I can share my personal experience there, which I think is helpful for listeners, is that even at Mountain Tough, this show is about helping people with their mindset. Every episode we talk about mindset tools that people can put in their toolbox. And the PCT concept makes perfect sense to me, that we used to have to focus on problems for survival. That just understanding that and digging into that paradigm shift was really helpful. And then understanding RSF and Relentless solution focus was a game changer for me, especially the month that I read it. We were going through a lot of different things at work, and to understand the quicker I can come to solutions, and if I can get that shift to happen within 60 seconds, game changer. And I was definitely fired up about it. And, my wife was fired up about it, and we still certainly are. And even like you mentioned, having a friend or a spouse or a family member help you get to that solution quickly. So she even knows now, if I'm thinking about something, she'll instantly say, what are 3 solutions to that problem? And that switch is a total game changer. And then just the nature of our work, we're working out for a living, so we get the dopamine rush of that every day, which is amazing. But what's powerful to me is understanding more and more how we truly do need to put in the work to rewire our brain, because even after understanding and digging into a lot of these concepts, it's not like all the work is done yet for me. I still have a tremendous ways to go, because I can still get caught off guard, and I can still get into a big season of ruminating on these problems and making these problems huge in my mind. And then, once you're down that slope, it's hard to get back out. And so I think an important thing is that understanding that we do need to rewire, and this is a long-term process.
Yeah, I guess, and what I would challenge people on is, I'm not going to challenge. I'm just going to say it this way. when it comes to mental training and physical training, and I think you could apply a lot of things to this, but I'll just say with the mental training, it's not how much you can do in any one given day. It's how many days you're going to do it.
Mm.
And again, I think what my strength, one of the reasons why I've had success in this field is I really work to not overcoach, to not overdo it with people. So I know I can't say, listen, you know, Dustin, I need you to do 45 minutes of mental training a day. No, nobody's going to give me 45 minutes of mental training a day, at least not many days in a row.
Mm.
But what I can get, I would just put it down to two things. I think the advanced mental training person is doing mental workouts. And I don't know if we'll get into that or not, but it's in the book. It's a 2-minute process. It's actually a little bit shorter than 2 minutes. If you could do that 3 days a week, you're really elevated. You're playing in the pros from a mental standpoint. If you're just kind of getting started, the two, one, we got to get the cardio in. You just have to get cardio in. I always say getting 30 minutes of cardio is like putting grease on the bike chain of life. Everything is going to be easier. You're biologically setting yourself up that bike is going to be running flat surface or even downhill as opposed to uphill all day long. And then from a mental standpoint, just take 20 seconds and write down 3 things you did well in the previous 24 hours. And I know it sounds really simple, but you said something. You got to retrain your brain. Think about this. When's the last time, I want the listeners to think this through as well. When's the last time you gave yourselves credit for anything?
Yeah. Yeah, you're always thinking about the problems.
It's so normal. You'll do 100 things right, one thing less than perfect, and your mind goes to that one imperfection and just totally overlooks the good stuff. And I would just tell you, that is a pure sign of mental weakness. It's really normal, but I tell you, normal is weak. The people that are in Mountain Tough, you're not normal. You're not training people to be normal. Normal is couch potato. Normal is 40 pounds overweight and can't walk up a hill without, breaking a sweat and needing to sit down. Well,
yeah.
That's not good either. We don't want to be that way. You got to put some work in to be abnormal. But my point is, you got to retrain the brain, because your brain is just, the normal way to think is, I'm no good. And the number one variable for all human performance is self-confidence. So think about this. If on a daily basis, you overlook all the good stuff you do and only focus on the one imperfection, what do you think that's doing for your self-confidence? You're destroying it. And then not only are you destroying it, but then you're pushing biologically the cortisol in the bloodstream, which is going to make you feel like garbage. It's going to rob your energy. I mean, you're just putting yourself in this hole that's going to just keep spiraling down and down and down. So how about just every day? I don't care how bad the day was. I don't care how good the day was. You write down 3 things you did well. And I know the problem is, a lot of people are going to say, well, I didn't do anything well. Screw that plan. Screw that. I got a good friend. He says these 2 words all the time: screw perfect. I love that phrase. A done well is anything that promotes personal or professional health or improvement. Anything. Here, I just moved to Miami and I'm living right in the middle of Brickell. Okay, this is, I'm an Iowa boy, and so living in the city took a minute to get used to. But man, you walk outside and there is a million things to do at all times.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it was 2 nights ago. So that would have been a Monday. No, it was Sunday night. That's right, Sunday night. I needed to run to the grocery store. I walk there. It's a 2-block walk. So I walked down there, and there's a bar right across the street, and I made some friends over there. It's a nice little dive bar, and they yelled over, "Jay, come over and have a beer. It's my birthday." One of the guys working there. I said, "Well, let me run the groceries up and I'll come down and have a beer." Anyway, 5 beers later, he says to me, "Hey, it's my birthday. Let's go out to another bar." And I said, "No." I'm not going to get Miami tonight. So my done
Yeah.
well was I had 5 beers instead of 6. And who
Yep.
knows what that number would have been if I would have went out. And look, I'm not proud of having 5 beers. That I'm certainly not encouraging people to go drink 5 beers or more. I'm just saying, for me,
As a
that
win.
I could have gotten a lot worse, and I was proud of myself. I was a little upset that I let it get to 5, but I was proud that it didn't go to a bigger number than 5. Anything that promotes personal or professional health or improvement counts as a done well. Anything. So 2 things. If I was going to get you to start retraining your mind, get your cardio, and then just on a daily basis, try to write down 3 done wells. And that's a really good start. But again, I don't need you to write down 10 done wells. How about 3? And if you can't get 3, write 1 down. But I want you to do it 3-4 days a week, because if you write 10 down on Monday and then don't write any down for another 10 days, it's a waste of time. It's the 72-hour rule. Muscle deterioration begins within 72 hours of your last workout. So if the workout you're doing today is so hard that you're not going to be able to come back within 3 days, stop doing as hard of a workout today.
Got to recover.
Back in there within 72 hours.
Let's peel that onion back just a little bit more so that it's incredibly clear and practical. So if you have like a 40-year-old male working professional, a couple kids at home, let's say they have their physical side down already, mindset training and mental training so that they're not becoming mentally weak. They're fighting that weakness. Practically, what should their week look like?
Well, I'm going to challenge you when you say the 40-year-old male with 2 kids has the physical side under control. Your Mountain Tough people probably do. Yeah. But I've worked with enough of this population to know that is a rarity. I am so scared for the 30 and 40-year-olds out there. I'm 53 and I'm in better shape than most of you folks at 30 and 40. And that's not how it's supposed to be. That is not how it's supposed to be. So again, I'm not going to take for granted that the cardio is in place. So my first answer is get the cardio in place. Second would be write down 3 done wells every day. And then there's the second half to that success log. There's 2 more questions. What's one thing you want to improve in the upcoming day, and how are you going to make the improvement? All right. And then if I was going to go kind of pro level, it would be, and then let's also do mental workouts. Now, if we could get every one of those 3 things, we could do the cardio 3 days a week or more. If we could do the success log, which the success log is kind of all 3 questions put together, 3 days a week. And then the mental workout 3 days a week. I'm feeling pretty good about that 72-hour rule, because it's hard to do something 3 days a week and have 72 hours pass between the next workout. I mean, you'd have to be strategic. I guess you could do it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then not do it again until Sunday. But who's going to do that? Human nature is you're probably going to, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, something like that. But that would be, to me, if I can get somebody doing those 3 things, cardio, success logs, mental workouts, 3 days a week, I know we're going to start outperforming the competition. You're going to definitely see a difference in the way you perform and how the levels of happiness and health in your own life. No doubt about it.
I love it. And that's not a huge time commitment at all. Anyone can do 3 days a week.
That's 33 minutes by my math. That's 33 minutes a day. 30 minutes for the cardio, 1 minute for the success log, 2 minutes for the mental workout.
I've used a ton of Bluetooth speakers over the years, and they all have never quite had enough output for me to really have an awesome home gym workout on a Bluetooth speaker. But the Turtle Box is in a whole new ball game. They have leveled up this product, so the bass and the output you get out of a Turtle Box is quite amazing. It's funny how we started using them at the lab. We had an awesome sound system at our new lab here in Bozeman. We were using it so much, we actually blew our brand new system out. We went right to the Turtle Boxes. And so we paired 2 together in the lab. And that was a lot of output for the Mountain Tough team and all of our testing to have phenomenal sound in our gym for a great workout with great music. We know there's a ton of Mountain Toughers training in their basements, in their garages, and I know a lot of you are looking for great sound to play some music in the background to your MGDs. This is a great product for you to check out. Turtle Box is at a whole new level. The bass and the volume you can get out of that box. It's a sweet product. You guys can check them out at turtleboxaudio.com. Use promo code TOUGH for a free Turtlebox hat with the purchase of a Gen 2 speaker. The hat must be added to your cart before entering the promo code TOUGH, TOUGH. You've been listening to the Mountain Tough Podcast. And what are the mental workouts we should be thinking about doing at home?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a deeper question, but I'll just kind of run through it really quickly. It's 5 steps, and this is really the mental workout is what it's what got me the job at the St. Louis Cardinals. It's really kind of what took me as I went from being a graduate student in the very last weeks of graduate school. In fact, I was preparing for final comprehensive exams. They do a 40-hour week of testing anything that you've had in your entire PhD program. I mean, it was really overwhelming. But anyway, I was preparing to take this comprehensive exam, which is one of the last things you do to get the doctorate. And I had this thought of, okay, I've been in school for 30 years. I mean, I was 30 at this time, and I'm about to get out. And, you really should be getting a return on the investment. What am I going to sell? What's my product?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I've kind of been moving toward this sports psychology, mental toughness thing, but what really is mental toughness? And I had an idea, but it was loose. And then I thought, okay, well, what is physical toughness? And I knew what physical toughness is, coming from Iowa, stand up in a, toe to toe with a guy who's going to be standing longest. Playing football, who's going to push who, which way.
Yeah.
Stand physical. And I said, well, okay, so how do you get physical toughness? And I started thinking about, you go to practice and the coach teaches you, or you go to training to fight. But or you go to a physical trainer and they teach you workouts that make you strong. But it's clear, there's no doubt about it. Go do the work and the muscles have to respond and you become stronger. And I knew enough about the brain. I said, well, shoot, the brain is really, it's the same thing as the bicep. And what should be those exercises? And that's where the idea of this mental workout, and I wrote the dang thing in 45 minutes. And it was like catching lightning in a bottle. I called a friend of mine. He was playing with the Houston Astros. He's one of my best friends. And he was having a kind of a hard time. He was having a really tough 3 weeks. And I said, hey, man, write this down. I think this is going to be something big. It might be helpful for you, too. And he then goes on like a 3-week terror. Okay. And he tells 5 of his teammates. They tell 2 guys in the NFL each, 1 guy in PGA. My career just absolutely blew up with this mental workout. For a pro athlete, it was 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And I still think with a pro athlete, it's a little bit longer than for just non-pro athletes. But for us, it's 1 minute, 40 seconds. It's 5 steps. 1 is a centering breath. You just breathe in for 6, hold for 2, breathe out for 7. The second step is something called an identity statement. Identity statement is really just a personal mantra. I won't give you the details of how to create one, but I'll just tell you mine. Yeah. I outwork the competition every day. I'm the most effective performance coach and speaker in the country. I experience true love as a father and friend. And then the third step is visualization. It's 1 minute worth of visualization. And what I visualize for the first 30 seconds is I've developed this, it's called the vision of self-image. I know 5 years from now what I want my life to look like. It's, and in the book, I walk everybody through this. So if people are interested, it's in chapter 7, 8, and 9 of Relentless Solution Focus. But you create with very details of what's most important in your life, where you want your life to be in 5 years. So I watched that video and it shows me where I want to be professionally, where I want to be with my children, with my family, and where I want to be with my own personal health and happiness. That's the first 30 seconds. And then the second 30 seconds is, okay, so what do I need to do in the upcoming day to best position myself in 5 years to be living that life? Another way to do it is just, what are the 3 most important things I need to do well in the upcoming day?
Yep.
But again, you kind of start low level and you get better and better at this stuff. But I've been doing it for a long time. So I'm really obviously advanced at my own mental workout. So every day I think that's where I want to be in 5 years. And then I just kind of, run through the important points of my day, but it only takes 30 seconds each side. And I get myself really mentally ready to attack the most important things. That's the third step, that visualization piece. And then the fourth step, I just repeat the identity statement again. And then I take that same centering breath, breathe in for 6, hold for 2, breathe out for 7. And again, I think you do those mental workouts 3-4 times a week.
Game changer.
You'll have an advantage on the competition. Just trust me. I don't have anybody that commits to doing mental workouts say to me it's not an extremely effective use of time. In fact, it's what got me the job with the Cardinals. It took me from like I said, a graduate student to one of the top sports psychology consultants in the world in a very, very short amount of time. And it's all science-based and it just flat out works. But you got to do the work, and that's the thing. I know you and your population, your people are not afraid to work. And that's a really positive thing. You guys all need to be giving yourselves credit for having work ethic. It's one of the things with my kids, and this is kind of based on science and research of what people, I get a lot of companies will hire me and say, help us with our talent selection, with our recruitment, who should we hire? And if you do the research, and I always just do research and look for parallels, what do all the people that have been successful, are there parallels of what they have all said? I'm not trying to be the smartest guy. I just want to know what the smart people have done before me. And I'm going to emulate that. Well, Coach Wooden, his 2 foundation blocks of his pyramid, he calls it enthusiasm, which I'll just use the term positive energy, and industriousness, which I would call that work ethic. Jack Welch, positive energy, work ethic. You can look at multiple different sources across industries, and that's what really causes people to be successful, the work ethic and a positive energy. And with my own children, I've really, I don't think I'm going to be getting Parent of the Year award, but I've done some really good things with my kids. I've taught them the importance of cardio. I've taught them how to recognize those done wells on a regular basis. And that's a big, big deal. I didn't know how big that one was going to be. I've taught them the importance of work ethic and positive energy. And, I'm not one of those biased dads. I'm not the guy in the stands thinking, why is my kid not playing more? In fact, probably just the opposite. My kids would probably tell you I'm harder on them than anybody else. But man, my kids just seem to be thriving against the competition. And again, if I said, well, what is it that I did? What gift did I give them? And I think they'd say the same thing: cardio, done wells, positive energy, work ethic. I don't think it's got to be that much more difficult.
That's so awesome, because that is the theme that I see over and over again as well, for sure, is that positive energy and that work ethic. And that's what we look for with our team. And that's what all great teams are looking for. The fascinating thing about that is that it shows that talent is a variable, but talent isn't the answer. The answer is the work, not the talent.
Have you heard of Dan Gable, the great wrestling coach from Iowa?
I have, yeah.
He's an icon in wrestling. I keep looking over here. I just moved to Miami 2 weeks ago, and this is the first time I've seen it's like a hurricane rainstorm out there. It's crazy. So I'm like, should I be evacuating the building? But I can't even see, 100 yards. Anyway, I asked Gable one time, I said, Coach, what would you rather have? An athlete with work ethic or talent? And he smiled. He looked at me and he said, both. Now, you got to understand, that was at the point. Gable's, he was the number one wrestling coach in the world by far, and he was able to get both. So he was just kind of, pimping me a little bit, but we kept talking about it, and he said, no, but the truth of the matter is, if I had to choose one or the other, if I don't have athletes that come to Iowa that aren't full of talent at this point.
Yeah.
That what I've seen is, if a person has more talent than work ethic, I'm probably seeing them at their best already. But he said, if it's the inverse, if their talent isn't quite what their work ethic is, if their work ethic is just really high and their talent's really high, but not as high as, then I know for a fact I haven't seen them at their best yet. Now, again, that's coming from a coach that had more success. John Wooden, he was voted greatest coach of any sport, the UCLA basketball coach, but Wooden told Gable at the Olympic Training Center, Wooden himself said to Gable, he thought that Gable should have been voted. So you're talking about one of possibly the greatest coaches of any sport of all time saying that, but still, I think that's a really good resource, and it makes sense. Work ethic, talent has the ceiling, work ethic takes the ceiling off of talent.
That's so awesome. Well, I want to recap, and then I have one or two more questions for you, Jason. But I think, the recap is super helpful. We got to quit thinking of problems all the time that is in our biological ancestor principles that, not always in life, very rarely in life are mountain lions jumping out trying to kill us, even though some of us do get into those situations all the time.
Your people, it probably was a bad example, but yes.
But in normal life, in day-to-day life, we are fairly safe. And so we turn ordinary family or business problems into huge mountains when they don't need to be huge mountains. And the more we think about those and talk about those, the worse they become, because that cortisol's kicking out, and that cortisol is killing us. And the solution is to quickly go to a solution-based mindset. And to make sure that we're doing this all the time, we need to train. Just like we're training physically, the mind is going to atrophy like a bicep or tricep if we're not training it. And if we are training it, just like a physical muscle, it will grow, it will become stronger, and we can take that to more advanced levels for sure. I think a big question I have for you is around kids, which you answered those really well already. But the second big question I had was around social media, and what is social media doing in this equation? Because it can make it look like we're surrounded by problems at all times from all different levels.
Yeah, let me unpack that one here in a second. But I think one thing, you and I are so familiar with RSF that we, maybe for the viewers, didn't give the actual tool.
Yep.
So when I'm experiencing the problem, and it could be a mountain lion, it could be I'm just in a fight with my wife, it could be the boss, got on my case today, it could be my child isn't behaving the way I want to. When you're in that PCT moment, the way you break free from thinking about the problem is a simple question you ask yourself. And I would really, again, I've not asked people to write much down, but this would be I would write this question down. This is not the $1 million question, but the $1 billion question. What is one thing I can do differently that could make this better? What is one thing I can do differently that could make this better? And you don't look for perfection. You just look for 1 inch of improvement there. But force an answer. And I don't know is not an answer. You don't give yourself permission to say, I don't know. Even if you're wrong, a wrong answer is better than I don't know, because you'll get to the right answer faster. But if you're in that PCT moment, if that caudate has you circling around and turning that, that smaller problem into a bigger and bigger and bigger problem, just ask that question and force an answer. And if the answer you put up, you think, okay, yeah, and that maybe gives you a little reprieve for a moment. And they say, no, that ain't going to work. But then you got to get another one. So you always have to have an answer on the solution side of that mental chalkboard. That's how you go from problem to solution. Now, again, that's a bit of a pep talk. And that's where, when you're talking about, you got to have the training so that you become really good at that. Oh, this is crazy here.
The storm. I can hear it.
If there's a crash, come looking for me, okay? I'll be under the rubble. I'll still be alive.
We'll find you.
Yeah, but again, I'd love to be able to just have people listen to this and oh, okay, I get it. PCT won't get me again. No, PCT is going to get you. It's going to get you a bunch. It's going to get all of us. And knowing what to do is one thing. Being able to do it is another. That's toughness. Like, I know if I get in a fight, I need to be able to knock you to the ground before you knock me to the ground. I know that, but being able to do it is a different story. So if I can do some training, I become better at executing. Same thing here. You know what to do now. Anytime there's a problem, get to the solution, try to do it within 60 seconds and answer that one question. And then the more you can do mental workouts, the more you can do physical workouts, and then the more you can do success logs, the easier it becomes to win that fight.
Mountain Tough is the fitness app trusted by the dedicated. Mountain Tough ethos is backed by, we've always wanted to be the best in the world at helping our customers become more mentally tough. So inside the Mountain Tough app, you're not only going to find all of our physical training programs, but you're going to find additional training as well so that you can stay sharp physically, mentally, spiritually, and nutritionally. The Mountain Tough app also allows you to train no matter where you are, anytime, anywhere. Additionally, the Mountain Tough app is going to have programs from beginners all the way up to elite athletes. And all of our programming is structured in a way that you can start with no gear at body weight, and you can go all the way up to programming that is full gear. So you can do that in a robust home gym or your local gym. There's no excuse for you not to start today. With Mountain Tough, you can conquer your goals with the ideal program for your lifestyle and schedule. Train with equipment or just your body weight on your phone, tablet, TV, or web browser. Most importantly, Mountain Tough will help you train your mindset so you are always ready for anything life throws your way. Mountain Tough is offering the Mountain Tough podcast listeners an incredible offer. 6 weeks free on the Mountain Tough app. All you need to do is use the code MTNPOD to redeem your 6 weeks of training. That'll be a 14-day free trial plus a whole additional 4 weeks of training. Just go to mountaintough.com and enter code MTNPOD for your 6 weeks free on the best-in-class physical and mental training app. You've been listening to the Mountain Tough podcast.
Now, the question was social media. I would love, I know that I have a somewhat large social media presence, but I personally have literally not been on social media, not even 1 second, for 18 months. In fact, I'm here in Miami and, people are saying, hey, here, hit me up on Instagram. I can't even get on Instagram. I don't even have it. So I had to email my girls about passwords and I have it. I have the passwords, but I still haven't done it. But so I don't want to come off as an expert on social media. Okay. Because I'm really not. And I really don't like to talk about things from an expert point of view unless I have my own personal experience with it. And I think anything I would share with you would just really kind of be opinion based on some things that maybe I've learned in my education and training. So I want to be really cautious and preempt my whatever statement I'm going to say. But if you had a question about social media, again, take what I'm about to say as if it's more opinion than fact, but what would the number one question you'd want me to help with in terms of social media be?
I think the number one would be around ensuring that it doesn't cause too much PCT every day, all day?
I think I would create boundaries, meaning, when my kids were growing up, we used to have on Sundays the no phone bag. Everybody, including the adults, had to go put their phones in literally a bag, a canvas bag for 3 hours, just to learn how to live life without our phones.
Hmm.
I would certainly, if I was a parent, my kids are all college age and even now getting out of college, so it's kind of on them at this point. Although I would certainly have these conversations if I had concerns. I would, if my kids were young, I would certainly want to talk about boundaries. When do they put the phone away at night? I don't want the phone next to I personally, my phone is 20 feet away from me when I sleep. And if there's an emergency in the middle of the night, guess what? I'm not going to know about it. I'm just not. We'll have to deal with it in the morning. But I would want boundaries of not just social media, but just the phone. Those phone guys, they got us. I can't tell you how many times I think to myself, oh, I got to send so-and-so a text, or I got to, I do a lot of notes in my phone so I can keep thoughts clear and not forget things. And I'll think, okay, I got to go do this. And I'll open my phone up and I won't even remember what I was supposed to do because the phone gets me and moves me in a different direction. That's really scary to me because I practice what I preach. I'm mentally tough. I'm disciplined. There aren't many people that are going to out mentally tough me. And those damn phones, they get me too. And so I just really work on, yesterday I took a 90-minute walk and I left my phone back here in the apartment. And it's hard, I have to admit, I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna get up there and check the phone when I get back. But I would create boundaries of time where I was clear I wasn't going to be on my phone.
Mm.
That'd probably be the first thing that I would. And you know what? If I can master that, I think gives you a distinct advantage on everything associated with those dang phones. I do think social media, there is the dopamine release. I do know about that, they got you because what you're doing is you're getting that just quick release of dopamine from something that's really not going to be lasting. And that's very, very similar to drug addiction, sexual addiction, any of the addictions. It's extremely unhealthy. I would just want to get away from it as much as possible.
Got it.
So my best answer is boundaries. Create boundaries and then execute on the boundaries. And it's going to be a fight, and that's okay. Just stay in the fight. Continue to work toward having boundaries on the phone, because if you can create boundaries and if you can honor them, it's going to help you later in life as well, whether it be work-life boundaries or boundaries between, not getting Miami. That's a big piece of it too for me, is I have boundaries on what I allow myself in terms of drinking and going out and getting the right amount of sleep. But if you learn about yourself that whatever you commit to, you're going to do, that's what I call the cornerstone of mental toughness. So when you're creating those boundaries, make them realistic. Setting it high, hoping to get close, is a total loss. There's no empirical evidence to support that works unless it's 3-year or longer periods. But we're not talking about 3-year or longer periods. We're talking about day-to-day thoughts. You got to know that when you tell yourself something, that if you tell yourself and that you're going to commit to it, that you're going to get it done, that's going to be a huge separation for all kinds of really positive things in life.
That's a big one. And it starts stacking and stacking the more you do it. Yeah, that's really helpful. The boundaries is often felt for people with backcountry hunting, which, is a big part of the Mountain Tough brand. And a lot of hunts, you're able to get into areas where your phone doesn't work for 3, 5, 7, 10 days. And in those environments, it is insane how good you start feeling. And it kind of has always reinforced to me that we're not always going to get to go on trips like that. Not everyone has that opportunity, but we can recreate a lot of that impact in our life every day, whether that's keeping your phone away from you at night, keeping it in the car, keeping it in the garage, anything you can do to create that boundary. Not only is it great for you, but it's great for your family. Your kids don't want to see you on your phone all the time either. But the proof is in the pudding. If you go in the backcountry for 3 days with a phone that has no service, or you don't bring your phone, the amount of life you come back with, the rejuvenating feeling you come home with because of that is life changing. And so it is kind of breaking that addiction any chance you can is a game changer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm having this thought for the first time that if you just think about the phone, it's really small. It's really small. Now, I know when you're focused on that phone, this is another really important mental fundamental. Your brain can only fully focus on one thing at a time. So think about problem solution. If I'm focused on a problem, I can't be thinking about a solution. And that's the whole venting thing, is you got to just really be careful with the venting, because when you're venting, your brain is not even, there's no propensity to even think about a solution. Okay, but go back to the phone. The phone is really small, but you focus on that phone and then you go inside it and you're in that world inside the phone. You're fully inside it. You're living, literally, your reality is now inside that little small thing. And I'm up here and I got this expansive view. And if this storm would move out, I could see the ocean. I bet I could see 25 miles. And that's big.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live small. I want to live big. And you put yourself on that phone, you're putting yourself in a box. And just be careful, because that's no way to live.
So accurate. That's such a good analogy. We want to live with our heads up, looking at the big picture.
Well, and just see how big and beautiful life is. I have to think your experiences, on the mountain and in the backwoods, like, you totally get it. You're feeling life. You're connected to how big and beautiful this thing actually is. And just compare that to how small and confining and suffocating those fucking phones are.
Yeah.
I know what I'm going to choose. This is kind of me too. It's like, I'm going to be even better at getting rid of my phone.
Well, the big thing your book, Relentless Solution Focus, helped me with as well is it gave me this awesome feeling of kind of the sky is the limit. Nothing is impossible. You can truly do anything that you want in life, in your career, in your hobbies, in your family. The anything we want is at our fingertips, as long as we break it down to a solution mindset and just keep looking for one solution after the next. And your book helped me open my eyes to that so much, that anything we want to achieve, anything we want to accomplish, with that paradigm shift, the sky's the limit. We just got to keep getting 1% better every day, keep working on our solutions every day. Like, there's really nothing that's impossible.
Well, I know you guys are the good guys, and I grew up with the mentality, when the good guys do nothing, the bad guys win. And so I've tried my whole life to do everything I can to shut those bad guys down. And I know we're on the same team. So I just really appreciate being with you today. You're talking about military, and I know we got connected through a friend of ours mutually, Phil Kornichuk. And, I've been able to spend a lot of time getting to know him in person, and just the people designating their lives to making this world, the lifestyle I get to live, because they're going to work their tails off and fight for that freedom and the things that we have. I don't take that for granted. And so I just appreciate being here with you. If I can do anything for you or your people, you holler at me. I'm one of the good guys. I know you guys are the good guys. Let's keep fighting and beating the bad guys.
So accurate. Thanks so much, Jason. And you mentioned you're working on some new things, potentially a new book. What's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, so my three kids have all said they want to come in and take my business over. And so I'm not afraid of a fight. I said, bring it on. I'm not going to hand it to you. So I'm trying to make it a little bit more of a fair fight for them because I'm pretty tough in this field. I'm writing a book on coaching, trying to really simplify what I believe is essential to have as a skill set as a coach to help somebody actually make their lives better. So I don't know the title of it. It might be, so you want to be a coach, well, don't fuck it up. I was thinking about having that be the title. I'm sure that my editor won't allow that, but I like it. Maybe the head coach, the head coach, but whatever. It's a book on coaching, and I think it's going to be really, really. This is the longest process to actually try to get a book right. Everything else I've kind of been able to just mow through pretty quickly. I'm really taking my time on this one because I think it's really, really important, but I think it's going to be good. And I'm going to have it done by the end of this year. There's no doubt I'm going to have the thing done by the end of this year. So it'll be a book on coaching. Anybody in a position of leadership, parents, same thing. So I think it's a book on just how to help people get better at what they want to get better at.
Awesome. And you're still working with individual clients, teams, and speaking?
Yep, all day long. COVID took all the speeches away, but the last 2 years, things are bouncing back really pretty nicely for me. So I'm on the road 8 days a month, traveling, doing speaking. And then when I'm at home all day long, like I said, I'm a grinder. I'm just on the phone, coaching calls and talking to groups and teams all day long, virtually, just getting after it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for being here. It's been a podcast I've been excited about for a long time, and I'm really honored that you're on the Mountain Tough show. Getting your book recommendation from Phil and me reading it was at a pivotal time in my life, and it's helped me so much. And the really cool thing is I've given Relentless Solution Focus to a handful of guys now that they weren't always struggling, but they would tell me a story about their brother that was struggling with certain things or their coworker. And I've gotten that book, they've gave it to that individual. And then always a few weeks, 20 days later, they come back and they're like, man, that changed the game for that individual. And that's what it did for me. And you've done that for millions of people now, which is amazing, especially with your mission of helping people. It's awesome to see.
Yeah, it's important. And I do think the book is a good resource for people to, just like you said, work through life's problems, because we all have them, and most of us just don't know what to do to get through it. So anything I can do to help, let me know. I enjoyed being here with you. Thanks so much.
Don't get Miami down there.
Don't take some mental toughness, but I'm trust my mental workout. In my mental workout, I'm seeing not getting Miami on a regular basis.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jason. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
What a powerful conversation today with Jason Selk. I hope you guys took away all those golden nuggets from that episode like I did. There's so much in there, like always, to unpack, but think about a few things that you're going to apply to your life tonight, tomorrow, this afternoon. We got to apply this stuff, and we have to focus on training our mind just like we're training our bodies. We talked about it on today's show, but this stuff takes work. If we're going to get mentally stronger, if we're going to fight against mental weakness, like Jason said, we do not want to be normal as mountain toughers, and normal is mental weakness. But to be tough in the mind, we have to put in the work, and we have to put in that work throughout the week. He talks about it. Let's focus on 3 times a week. We're going to do these things to make sure we're strong in our mind as well as our body. He talked about the cardio, but then most importantly, I know a lot of mountain toughers are getting this cardio, they're getting this training, but he talked about the practical tools you can do for your mindset, the relentless solution focus, getting away from problem-centric thinking. This was huge for me. This process changed my life. I know it's going to change yours. You can follow the tips he shared in this episode, but I encourage you guys, just order the book, Relentless Solution Focus. I don't recommend books often on this show, hardly ever, but this is one that we have all around the Mountain Tough office. All of us have dove into these concepts. We hand this book out all the time, and it works. These tactics work. They're going to work in your home, in your job, in the military, in any sport. They're going to work on the mountain. Solution-focused mindset. We all have that friend that no matter what is going on, they're always just looking for the next solution. No matter how bad it gets, they're finding that next solution. And those people are so amazing to be around. And we need to be those people. So thank you for being here. Thank you for diving into this episode. I hope you guys loved it. If you want more information on Jason, you can find him at Instagram at Dr. Jason Selk. That is a great place to dig in. Make sure you check out the book, Relentless Solution Focus. He has some other great books as well, including 10-Minute Toughness. So check out those resources. Stay sharp in the mind, just like you're staying sharp in the body. Love you guys, and we will see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening to the Mountain Tough Podcast. We'll see you next week.